Nantes, France is a large city and known for being very peaceful and quiet. In the middle of town, there is this residential neighborhood where a lot of middle-class people live, and everyone goes to church on Sundays. It's really just chill vibes all around. That is until a neighbor's suspicion uncovers one of the most horrific crimes to ever come out of Nantes. This is the case of the Dupont de Ligonnès murders. We are your hosts, Sherry Ferreira
and Helen Allen.
This is The Chalk Line.
Good evening, everyone, and the highlights of the news this Thursday.
Okay, so we're going to start by meeting the family. Rewind to the beginning because I really think I nailed the pronunciation of the family name that first time.
I was proud of you.
Thank you. And I'll just call them the Duponts.
Okay.
I don't want to, let's not even struggle. So, the family has 4 kids. We have Arthur, who's really into science and technology, and he's the oldest. Thomas, who's very passionate about music, who is 18. Anne, who was a model at the age of 16, was also really into like science, just like Arthur was. And then they have Benoit, who played the drums a lot, and he was 13.
Okay.
So really inclined talently all around. I'm sure neither of us can
like
relate.
A bunch of smart people, and they're either smart or musical, and
we have neither.
Not I.
Yeah.
Although we did think we were musical growing up.
Stop.
Nobody needs to see the covers that we did on my photo booth growing up.
Let's just say it was very cheatalicious. And I'm not going to say anything
very
anymore.
cheatalicious.
The mother's name is Agnes, and she worked in a Catholic school and led a Bible study group. Like, I feel like my mom would just love her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The dad's name was Count Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès, and he was a successful businessman.
Well, he had to live up to that name.
Imagine being a failure with a name like that. Imagine.
You can't fail.
He was well-known and respectful. He was respectable. And a count of all things, like, I literally did not know what that was, and I had to search it up. Basically, a count is a title of nobility that varies a little bit in meaning depending on which country you're in exactly, but it falls in the middle of this, like, grand social hierarchy. So you're not a king or a queen at all, but you're not, like, a commoner like the rest of us.
Right, like Dracula was a count.
Yes. Oh, my God.
Yes,
Count Dracula. Xavier grew up in Versailles, France, where he was surrounded by aristocrats, and everyone around him was of noble...
You just pronounced the S in Versailles.
Should we pause? Go back, did I? Go back. Versailles.
Just go back.
Xavier grew up in Versailles, France. Versailles?
It's Versailles. Like
Versailles.
Versailles.
Xavier grew up in Versailles, France, where he was surrounded by aristocrats, and everyone around him was of noble title. And as you can imagine, like, to be a count, you have to grow up in a very prestigious? Have you heard it pronounced both ways?
Yeah.
Weird. A very prestigious family. His father, Hubert, was a count, so there's, like, a certain air about them, but not in a snobby way. It's just, they were all nobles. Mm-hmm. Agnes met Xavier in the early 80s. He was 20, and she was 16 or 17.
Gross.
And very.
Well,
but considering the age gap, like, it's gross.
I don't know whether they're the victims or the perps here, but it's gross.
Yeah, it's a little bit gross, but you know what? They met. And in a lot of ways, they were kind of opposites because Xavier was this, like,
an adult,
free spirit.
And she was a child.
In one of the many ways that they were different, Xavier was a full-blown adult. And so he was also this...
Not on my watch, Xavier. Man, if I were Agnes's mother.
Oh, my God. Well, Xavier was this, like, free spirit, and Agnes took on a lot from her mother because she was very conservative and religious and just very traditional.
Okay.
But they met, fell in love. Don't give me that look.
I mean, she's traditional. So she went and found a man that's an adult.
Correct.
In high school. I just feel for her.
Yeah.
Because... You know, a 16-year-old doesn't know better, but a 20-year-old should.
Should. Especially a count.
Yeah, a count? Going
but
for
also
a child.
there's a lot of up stuff in, like, the noble.
I'm sure. Like, and I'm also sure that, like, you know, it was a different time. What time was it?
This was in the 80s.
That is not that much of a different time. I was thinking it was like the 1700s if
No.
they're doing this
No,
shit.
this
He's
is
a
like the
count.
80s.
I don't know. You say count to me, and I'm like, oh, it's
Dracula.
the 1700s.
No, so it was just in the 80s, but they met and built their family, and at the time of this case, they lived at 55 Schumann Boulevard. They led a normal life, I mean, obviously with 4 kids and 2 dogs, by the way. They were busy at times. They also went to church on Sundays like everybody else, and by all accounts, they were viewed as this, like, perfect family, and in the Netflix documentary that I watched from Unsolved Mysteries, they were described in this, like, picture-perfect way.
Okay.
Like, the highest of pedestals.
Okay.
But they also faced some, like, struggles. In the early 2000s, they tried to relocate to Florida, of all places. Like, United States, Florida.
Going from France to
Florida.
good old Florida.
I'm like, whoa.
I'm like, what was the line of thought here?
It was a jump for sure. But,
could you imagine, like, just going to public high school in Florida and meeting someone that's, like, moved from France, and you're like, what are you doing here? I don't...
Are you lost?
You do not belong here, ma'am.
They speculated a little bit of why they wanted to go, and a lot of people thought they were chasing the American dream, and...
I hope people don't think I'm, like, being racist when I say that.
Because
I didn't mean to say, oh, they don't belong here because they're from France. I mean, France is better.
Yeah,
is
France
what I
is
meant.
way better than Florida.
Okay, I just don't, you
and
know
anyone
how
who
people
takes
can
it
be.
that way, if anyone takes it that way, they need to
yeah,
really...
like, I just wanted to make that clear because you know we'll get a
backtrack.
comment being like, oh my god, you guys hate France. And it's like, no, I hate Florida.
In general.
I'm literally going to Florida in like a month. Okay, anyway. Back to the story.
Okay, so they end up having some complications, and it's not really specified what exactly prevented them from not being able to move, but they just end up going back to France and settling down. This brings us to the star of our story. It's April 11th, 2011, and no one has really seen the family in a while. I mean, there's been a couple of sightings from neighbors and everything, but nothing too specific.
Do we generally at this point know how long is like a while?
I'd say from the doc and the way they worded out the timeline, I'd say about 2 weeks, maybe more.
Okay.
So it's around 2 p.m. on April 11th, and the neighbor noticed the house was locked up and that there was a note on the mailbox. It said, "Stop leaving mail at this address." She also noticed, which what scared her the most, was that the shutters were closed. And she mentioned how this was not in their nature, and that even when they went on vacation, the shutters were always opened.
I wonder why the note.
And there was another one on the door, so I don't know if maybe they had gone away or just... I really don't know.
To me, it's like...
Yeah, what do you think?
I don't know. Like, what if I were the neighbor stumbling upon this note, I would be like, did they move and I didn't know and the new family is annoyed? Or like, you know, I don't really know what I would even think. I don't know if I would think like, uh-oh, red flags, or if I would just be like, what the hell?
Well, here's the thing. It was especially important that this neighbor noticed because she actually helped out around the house for the family. Like, she would iron the dad's clothes and like help out the mom sometimes. So she would know more than anyone what was going on.
If it's like fishy. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
2 days went by and the house remained the same. And so she calls local police to go in and do a house inspection. And this is April 13th now.
Okay.
They find that the front door is locked and the shutters were still closed, so they had to call in a locksmith to get inside. And everything is normal except the bed sheets are removed. A few clothes were open, or a few closet doors were left open, but other than that, it just looks like they went on a trip.
Did it like seem like there were clothes missing, or just the doors were open?
The doors were open, and I would assume they would see that clothes were missing, yeah. They also noticed that all their cars were still there except for a C5, which what I gather is a generally small car because the neighbor comes... Yeah, Europe. And we could just cut it there. Europe. And also the neighbor comes back and is so adamant that they could not have all left in a C5 because it's this huge family, all their suitcases, and on top of that they have their 2 dogs. Like,
right, it's like 6 people and 2 dogs, and they're not small people because it's like not like they have really, really young kids. The youngest is what, 13?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So it's impossible. And
do they have another family car?
It didn't say.
Because my question is like, if they're like, oh, it's not possible that the family left in this car. It's like, well, what the hell did they do the rest of their days? They never traveled together? They must have another car, right?
Yeah,
they
had other cars, definitely. The neighbor was really going hard for the fam. Like, they were applying the pressure. And the police just really dismissed her because they were like, you're jumping to conclusions. They went on a trip. Like, calm down.
But why would they put a letter outside being like, don't send us mail? We're in the Bermuda Triangle.
They literally, they were jumping to conclusions themselves, I feel.
I know. Like, just to assume that they took a vacation when there's, like, a sketchy letter on the door, it's like, that is a conclusion that I don't know if you even jumped to. I think you took a plane to it. That is just the most dramatic conclusion. When I see a letter that says, please don't send me mail, I'm not going to be like, ooh, she's just sunbathing.
Right. And it gets even sketchier because from April 9th to the 14th, several letters arrived from Xavier and Agnes, and they were all addressed to family and friends.
Wait, where did the letters arrive?
Some to their address, some to family, friends, the kids' schools.
Okay, so if letters arrived to their address, then doesn't that tell us that the person that wrote the letter saying, please don't send mail here is not them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Continue.
One of the letters was sent to Anne and the youngest boy's school, and it was signed by Xavier saying that Anne and the youngest boy will be leaving the school and that they're moving to Australia because of, quote, urgent professional changes.
Okay.
The next letter arrives to the Catholic school where Agnes worked, and it was basically a resignation letter saying that Agnes was leaving for some reason and that the headmaster could not reach her by her phone.
Do you know if these were typed or were they handwritten?
Typed. In general, there was this huge 8-page letter that basically told the family, you won't be seeing us for a while because they have ties with the U.S. And basically that they're being looked after by the American government because Xavier has been recruited to infiltrate an international drug ring.
Oh my god, no he isn't.
Yes.
No, this is not We're the Millers.
Listen. I love We're the Millers.
It's a good
so
movie.
good.
It's really good.
They're basically saying that we're the Millers. They say they're going to be put in witness protection, so they have to change their identities, be under surveillance 24/7, and cannot receive calls, texts, or any form of communication.
Don't we think that there would have been a more, like, formal way to tell the family, don't worry?
Yes. I feel if it was this specifically, then the government would even reach out and be like, hey.
Right, like, stop contacting these people just because...
You wouldn't do it personally, because what if it could be traced back to you?
Right, I just feel like they wouldn't take the risk to, like, tip someone off that they're in hiding. Exactly. I feel like that would have been a more official, or even, like, an
excuse.
They
almost.
go to the door and tell people, you know.
Exactly.
I don't think it would be traceable through a letter. Maybe I don't know anything. If you know a lot about witness protection, let us know.
But I agree. Or they would even just come up with a lie. Like,
right, because it's like, no matter what, I don't think anyone would ever be like, I'm actively letting you know that I'm in witness protection, because that defeats the point of witness protection. So, like, I feel like, if anything, they'd be like, oh, I'm going on a sabbatical, and, like, I don't know, I just feel like that's very fishy.
No, you're definitely onto something. And the letters also reveal that the father, Xavier, was a spy for the DEA, and they ask for the family and friends not to tell anyone. As if that's, like, you know,
anytime
concrete.
You get any letter that tells you information that's sketchy, and then they say, please don't tell anyone.
You
tell
run and tell someone.
Tell someone. The first thing you do, you tell someone.
One of Xavier's friends comments on these letters and gives a completely opposite opinion. He's like, this is so like Xavier. Like, so much so that
not really vouching for his friend, is he?
He's like, this, I can hear his tone of voice in my head.
Classic
like,
Xavier getting involved in a drug ring.
Yeah.
That's what his friend said.
The exact
Excuse
tone
me?
of air and everything.
If I was like, yeah, I could see her getting involved in a drug ring, guess what I won't tell? The news.
At all.
I'm going to be like, not like her at all.
Immediately.
Drug ring who? Not her.
Not him, though. He was like, the father is so respectful that... Not respectful. I keep saying respectful. The father was so respectable. A little bit. He was so respectable that people thought, maybe this is true. Maybe he is this spy and we just never knew about him.
Yeah, I guess, but it's weird that the friend was like, no, yeah, it's true about him. That friend is sus.
He was,
okay?
He was.
I don't know if I'm fishing, but that friend is sus.
After hearing about the letters, Agnes's family sends letters of their own to the Nantes district attorney saying that this is some sketchy behavior and that their daughter would never have left with the children without telling them or giving them a call. And it's after their persistence, not the neighbors, that the police decide, okay, we'll return to the house. Like, it's sure, why not? Whatever.
Okay.
It's April 15th and they do another investigation and the police notice that pictures are missing from their frames.
I don't like that. I'm just gonna go ahead and say, not cute.
At all. And I was watching this doc with Latrell and he was like, were the pictures just now missing or did they miss that the first time around they went to the house? And they never specified that either.
Good find, Latrell.
Right? I was like, wait, how could they have missed that the first time around? Were the pictures removed after? And did no one notice someone coming into the house?
No, you know what it is? They don't want to specify because they were like, oh, but we thought they were on vacation with all their pictures.
Like idiots.
We thought they brought every picture that they had from the home to Barbados. And that's that. I don't know. But if I walked into a home and there were no pictures in any of the frames, I would think, I'm saving myself. And I would leave. And so it's beyond me how they could not have noticed that in the first place. Yeah. I'm thinking they knew that and they didn't say anything because they wanted to stick to their grit and just say, they're on vacation, case closed. We don't have to look into this. I'm clocking out.
Me too. And honestly, they probably didn't even tell anyone.
Right.
The house was probably still closed off. They locked it behind them. Only police and investigators would be allowed inside.
And then the next time they were like, I guess since people are really poking their nose in this, we should probably tell them that there's no picture frames.
Idiots. Other than that, everything else was exactly the way it was the first time they went there. But still, Agnes's family is applying that pressure. And she's like, a family just doesn't disappear like that. And it's this persistence and them going so hard for their daughter and their grandsons and their son-in-law that the police go back on the 18th, 19th, 20th, and the 21st.
This is what happens when you're persistent and annoying. People listen to you and they do what you want.
Right. We have
I'm
this
sorry
podcast.
And how many times a day do I text you being like, are you coming over to record?
Right.
Are you going to do this? This is what I'm going to tell you to do. And it works. I get the results I want because I'm persistent and annoying.
Period. I was almost suspicious of how much they were going to the house to check. Like, obviously, job well done. But I had me questioning whether this was just how the French police operate. Was it because the family had a count in it and, subsequently the children are all of nobility.
Like saving face, kind of.
Yes.
Well, I'm interested in the fact. So do the police knows the weird allegations that Xavier works for this drug ring and is in witness protection now?
Yes.
Okay. So my thing is, like, do they believe it, I wonder? Because if they believe it, maybe this is them trying to save his face. Like, oh, he's a prominent person. We don't want anyone to know this. But if they don't believe it,
it's like,
why would they go and jump through hurdles to save face?
Exactly.
Huh.
Something to think about. On the 6th visit, the police lieutenant finds something underneath their terrace. So they're finally going outside and really examining the whole house because everyone is in such a literal uproar over it.
Okay, like, what is interesting?
Well,
like, I need the definition of interesting because interesting somethings underneath the terrace is like, oh, look, the family that lived here before me has a bunch of gardening tools that they left behind. What in the hell could the police think is interesting under the terrace?
Well, they notice something poking out a little bit. I'm not sure if they go, no.
And?
No. Well, they do some further digging, and while this is all happening, we'll get back to that, the DA that... listen! So while this is all happening, literally at the same time, the DA that Agnes's family reached out to is holding a press conference at the courthouse saying, it's unusual that this family has disappeared. We're opening investigation into a worrying disappearance.
Okay, God forbid they are in witness protection. This is no good.
Oh my God, a snitch, right? A snitch!
I'm just like, you are sounding off alarms.
For no reason.
Good.
Yeah.
No good.
But halfway through all of this, he has to stop and answer a phone call. It's the police.
Because they found something interesting.
Interesting. See how this is coming back?
Here we go.
See what I did there?
Let's go. Let's go.
He needs to meet up with them because after digging underneath the terrace, the lieutenant uncovers large plastic bags with tape around them.
I wonder what could be in there. Oh. I don't want to know.
He had found their bodies.
Oh, God.
He described it as a massacre, and I was like, dramatic French people, but also, yes, it was a massacre.
Oh, my God. Well, wait, how many bodies did he find? Is that everyone?
Well, we'll get into that. Their bodies were covered in blankets and duvets, then tied up and put into plastic bags.
I already know who did this.
And next to... What? Who? Who do you think?
When you cover a body in a blanket or a duvet, maybe I'm watching too much TV, maybe I've seen too many movies.
True.
But it's someone that loved you. So it's Xavier. He killed his family. Sorry. Case closed.
Funny that you say even just the simple thing of a blanket means they loved them, because next to each body were small religious relics or like icons.
Oh my God.
A little...
This is very John List to me.
Very. Other than the little religious like icons, there were also candles, a cross, and I believe some rosaries because the family was Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And the detective goes on to explain how this clearly illustrates someone imitating a religious burial, and there was a clear bond between whoever did this and the bodies. And funny that you say that, because in my notes I say it's a step above when like a perp just covers the face with a tarp or anything, and you touched on that like straight away.
Right. That's like a little red flag to me. I'm like, uh-oh, he covered it with a... Oh no, that's the dad or the mom. Whose bodies are there?
Well, they find the mother, Agnes,
Okay.
the 3 children, and the 2 dogs.
3 children?
3 children and 2 dogs, all placed in one grave.
So...
Separately, they find Thomas, the other son, placed in a separate grave entirely.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
So why did Xavier do it?
Well... Stop! I just knocked over my water bottle. No, okay. It's not really clear why. There's no evidence, and there haven't really been sightings of him around the home, but Xavier is catapulted to being the prime suspect.
And I am not confused as to why.
Right. You were there.
No
You
question
told
here.
them. You said, Xavier! Let's wrap it
get
up.
him.
Right. They got a judge to issue an international warrant to every member country of Interpol, and they began their search. Like,
Yes,
that
let's do
alone
this.
is crazy.
Get out of witness protection. I'm just kidding. He was never there.
A bad sitcom. He was
I just
never
can't
there.
believe how dumb he is to be like, you guys, I'm in witness protection. There's gotta be a way for the government to find that out. So, like, the police are like, no, wait, no. There's no record of him ever being put away into witness protection.
The investigation starts, and the autopsy revealed that all of the kids had sleeping pills in their viscera. I believe that's how you pronounce. It's the internal organs and basically just their intestines.
Okay.
Agnes did not have sleeping pills in her system, however, because she sleeps with one of those sleep apnea machines that helps you from stopping to breathe when you're sleeping.
It looks like an elephant machine.
Yes.
Like, it puts it on, it makes you have an elephant trunk.
Yes. She had an elephant trunk. Further investigation reveals that her machine stopped abruptly at 3 a.m. on the morning of April 3rd or 4th.
So, was she suffocated? Or he just turned the machine off? Is that what we're supposed to think?
I just think it means that she woke up all of a sudden in the middle of the night when usually she lets it run
so
continuously.
Okay, I understand. So it just, because she probably woke up, it stopped.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And just to give you some perspective, this is all happening 11 days before the local police first showed up to the house and 6 days before the first letter arrived.
Okay.
So that's just something to think about when we're trying to consider who potentially killed her and how long it was before anyone suspected something. I mean, that's almost 2 weeks. That's 11 days too long. Investigators are able to conclude that Agnes was the first one killed, then the children.
How could they know that? Just because of her waking up at 3 a.m.?
I think it's forensics. Just looking at what happened and seeing when they were killed.
It's interesting because 11 days is like a long time for
the
them
body
to still be able to have reliable
evidence and just be able to look at the bodies and tell all that.
Yeah.
Each person was killed by 2 bullets in their head, and the bullets had been shot from a .22 long rifle. So that's a total of 10 bullets, all probably fired within the same time frame. And the only thing I can imagine is, were the neighbors deaf?
Well, it's weird because the one neighbor who like did report it, obviously she didn't hear it, you know? And then she can't be lying about that because she was genuinely concerned.
Yeah, and why would
right?
and if you were suspicious, why would you lead them right to it? Like, I
Right.
feel like you would set up some
I would
more
just let it be.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, I'm not drawing attention. But, like,
Right.
see, to me, she clearly didn't do it. But that also means, okay, she could not have heard the gunshots. Because if she did hear the gunshots and then she noticed that they weren't there, she would
would have been
probably,
different.
Right. She would have probably said something.
Another thing is that with the kids and mother being killed in their sleep, you would think that there would be a trace of blood, a little DNA, but their rooms and almost every room in the house was spotless. The foyer, their bedrooms, the bathroom, the walls, it had nothing.
Like it had been cleaned?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm like, how could it have possibly been cleaned so well that there's no trace?
And that's what I'm thinking. Those 11 days, like, whoever did that was going ham with that bleach, apparently.
Whoever. We know who
Yeah.
did it.
Well, no! I'm trying to be ominous.
It's not working for me.
But, I mean, went to town because not a trace, a smear,
Yeah,
a hair. Like, I
don't know. That's very bizarre to me.
They ruled out the possibility of the killer possibly moving the bodies to a second location because it would clearly give them away. And no one in the neighborhood had mentioned seeing anyone suspicious, which I do think is really important because they seemed very, not nosy, but just vigilant.
Right,
so I
and
think
you
they would
said
notice
it was like a very peaceful, calm, quiet town. I feel like it's very, I mean, I know if I see people in the hallway that I don't normally see in my apartment building. Like, you just know. Like, you know.
And so they're left wondering, like, how could 5 murders happen in the same place, same time, and there's not one speck of blood, which is what I think makes...
Do they mean they have no DNA or fingerprints from anyone that's outside of the family? Because if it is Xavier, he doesn't need to clean up his prints or DNA.
Yes.
Okay, so case closed, like I said. Why are we
You're
still
like, can
talking
we go
about
to lunch, please? I'm tired of working hard. Something interesting that comes up is the fact that Xavier was the heir to the family name. So it's crucial to consider this when talking about motive because, right, there's no other evidence. Xavier looks sus, his body's not there. We're automatically like, okay, it's Xavier. But if he did commit the murders, specifically the murders of his 3 sons, then he would have killed off his entire lineage. And being a count and all that, like, that's important to you.
Right.
You want to preserve that family name.
Right. And just, like, kind of for what, I guess? Like...
And at this point, they don't have a reason until they do some more investigation. As it turns out, and if you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, this is the other shoe. The family wasn't as picture perfect as they seem. They spent all their money trying to move to Florida, and it's not really specified how.
Mean?
I don't know, but
He
it was
got scammed by a fake realtor or something. I don't
know if maybe they had attempted to go there or spent money maybe trying to get like a visa. I'm not sure, but it's noted that they spent all their money trying to make this move happen, and then
just don't.
In the next 10 years.
Okay. I don't know what that means, but I guess I'm dumb.
Me too. In the next 10 years, so from 2001 to 2011, they slowly begin to spiral. Specifically, Xavier loses more and more money. He has debt collectors on his back because he owed $23,000. And yes, that is US dollars.
Okay.
I already converted it. You're welcome.
Yeah.
No problem. And the proclaimed business owner who he claimed to be, who traveled, who led a luxurious life, was just a lie. They discovered that his companies were never successful and that he's basically poor.
So that thing that I said about how, he better be successful with a name like that, I didn't mean to jinx him.
Trapped. I trapped you. It was a trap.
Whoops.
Okay. And I think throughout these 10 years of them just having this downward spiral that they were really biding their time with the money that they know would eventually run out, and they would have to leave their home. I mean, they'd have to live somewhere a little bit more humble.
Right. Do we know that if Agnes was, like, in on this? Like, did she understand that they were losing their money? Do we know if she was aware of any of this?
I don't think she knew the gravity of it, and I also think with what we know more later on that Xavier would not have told her.
Okay.
Or let on how bad it was actually getting.
Right.
With that being said, Xavier was terrified that he was going to be exposed as this failure, that he was unsuccessful. And this gives what we needed, motive, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
He really wanted to, what we find out later, save the children from disgrace and dishonor of finding out that their father could not support their family. He was also described in like a double opposite way that he was being described before, that he was very vain and he had a lot of pride.
This is literally textbook Family Annihilator.
Girl, don't I know it? Don't I know it? Literally, because it's always a financial struggle that just causes people
It really is. And then tell me, what is the event that makes him break the ice?
Okay, wait. All right. So
I knew it.
So
I knew it.
listen. Months leading up to the murder and what investigators and you and me will think pushed him over the edge are these two events.
Okay.
So
Two.
two. 3 months before the murders happen, his father Hubert dies of a heart attack.
Oh.
And as this is told by a neighbor of Hubert, the apartment obviously had to be cleaned out, so Xavier was going over there to do all that, but specifically he was going to recover a ring that belonged to his father. It was a count's signet ring.
Not so he could sell it.
No, definitely so he could sell it, because
Xavier,
at this point,
you...
like 2 or... It makes my job so much easier. I love it. But at this point, he had tried starting up 2 or 3 businesses, and each one had failed. I mean, he hired people for one company, and literally within a few months, he had to let them all go. So he was going to recover this ring, which I'm like, think of like a huge graduation ring or one of those football rings.
Okay.
Was
it like his family's?
Yeah, like a family heirloom.
Okay.
Yes. Xavier also wanted to see if the family had set aside any money, like in a trust, that would really help ease his financial trouble.
Oh my god.
But
his dad is dead, but never mind.
yeah.
Like...
But he didn't find anything. There was no ring, there was no money set aside, and
Well, his dad was probably like, not for you, I'm dying with it.
Well, the second event is that he finds out the family is poor. His dad had been living in this rented... Yes, the entire family was poor.
I was like, we done knew that.
Yeah.
They spent all their money on Florida.
So this is obviously a huge shock to him, because I don't know if he was maybe too prideful to ask his father for money and just hoped and assumed that once my dad goes, I'm going to be baking in this cash.
Dang, that is so cool.
But
also, he would have been SOL.
Mm-hmm.
I almost wish he did ask. Just
Right.
so his dad could be like,
this apartment's
I ain't got
rented.
nothing for you.
Right. One thing Xavier does find and keep from the home is a .22 caliber long rifle. 2 months before the murder, so we're now in February, Xavier obtains a firearms license.
Oh, so he can kill his family legally?
Learns how
What
to
is
shoot.
the point of getting the license?
He, learns how to shoot, and on the couple of these trips, he takes his sons with him for practice.
That is so disturbing.
About a month later, he buys a silencer and rifle bullets, which explains why the neighbors were not able to hear all 10 shots.
Oh my god.
Back to present day, Thomas, if you remember, wasn't put in the same grave.
Right.
And they find out later it's because he was killed at a completely separate time.
Oh.
So when the siblings and mother were killed, everyone was still in the house, and Xavier let Thomas go back to his Catholic university. Meanwhile, he kills everyone that Sunday night and calls Thomas on the phone on Tuesday saying, you need to come back. Your mom's in a bicycle accident. She's in a hospital. She's in a coma. Like, all this shit. He's like, I don't know when she'll come out of it. It's getting serious. All of this.
Oh my god, poor Thomas.
So obviously he's in a panic. And he does come back, and the last that anyone hears from him is at midnight when he texts a friend.
I wonder, did he text the friend saying, like, my mom's in a coma?
I don't...
Because I'm wondering why this never came up in the police investigation in the first place, that, like, when people started noticing the family's missing.
Well, here's the thing. So I watched this amazing documentary, and then when I looked up everything, there were so many accounts of friends, families, like, everyone in this family led separate lives of just being like, yeah, I hadn't heard from him. I thought it was weird. Or like, yeah, he didn't text me back this one day. Like, I thought that was weird. Like, schools and other stuff. And I'm like, how did this go on for this long without anybody noticing?
Mm-hmm.
Thomas was then drugged and never seen again, likely killed that night. He was the oldest of his sons, so a reporter speculated that Xavier did hesitate because Thomas would be the next heir to bear the name.
I can't with Xavier and his head.
Head to the max, right?
I can't. I'm like very bewildered.
Mm-hmm. And it would be Thomas who does receive the family name because Arthur is actually not his biological son. He and Agnes had broken up when they first met after they'd only been dating a year because he wanted to explore and, find himself in the desert near Joshua Tree.
Or I wonder if he got worried that he was dating a little girl while he was an adult. That's beside me.
That's beside it. But when he comes back, Agnes is pregnant by another man, and to everyone's surprise, Xavier still chose to marry Agnes.
That's interesting
keep the baby,
to me because he's so prideful.
And he gave the baby his last name. Like, nobility and all that, like, that matters. Mm-hmm. So it's, like, very shocking to everyone. And they were like, oh, he's such a good man.
Ew.
Yeah. The search begins on April 21st, and the last known sighting of him was around April 4th, so it's not really looking good at all.
He could be literally anywhere.
He's had a 17-day head start. I mean, he could be virtually anywhere.
Right.
On April 22nd, though, the next day, as I'm like, this is so hard. The next day, they find his car after looking at nearby hotels and restaurants. And the car was parked in a small Formula 1 hotel, which I don't know if that's like fancy talk for like a motel, but it was just really small hotel. And it was in the south of France.
Okay. So he was vacationing.
Fully.
So they were right about one thing.
Fully. And with all this, they start to piece together what actually happened. So on the 4th, they conclude that Agnes and the 3 kids were killed. Thomas was killed the next day. And on April 6th, Xavier is seen outside his home alone. And he spent the whole week just inside the home.
No, he didn't.
Yes.
That is absolutely crazy. That is ludicrous. I cannot wrap my head around what in the hell was he thinking for a week straight while dwelling in that home.
Neither
Cleaning,
can
I guess, because there was no speck of blood anywhere.
They find from a speeding camera that he was going towards La Rochelle, which was, a very specific location. Not that that means anything to us, but it does help them track down his car.
Okay.
And around noon that day, they see him in a restaurant, and this is all on April 10th. It's even confirmed by his credit cards, timestamps. He was staying inside the hotel. Like, he wasn't being
discreet.
Yes.
Okay. Because he's like, I'm just confused. Also, like, now I'm just like, why did he put that letter on the door? Stop sending mail here. It's like, hey, catch me, please.
Right.
Because I feel like, just let the mail pile up.
And it's like,
that would make it seem like you're on vacation. Let the mail pile up.
Part makes
of him
a lot of
probably
people confused.
was guilty.
Which is why I think he also spent so much time in the house. Mm-hmm. Like, in no way is this meant to be sympathetic, but I really think he was, saying goodbye to
Earth, but
I really think he was saying goodbye to everything and just being like, oh, mournful, and like this life he destroyed for his family. But it's like, you dude.
Well, because it's interesting because family annihilators are like a whole different breed of killers. Because they do what they do, and it's horrific and disgusting and disturbing, but they still have love for their family.
Yes.
It's very bizarre. I don't have one shred of compassion for him, of course, but it is like a very interesting and bizarre thing that they still have all this love. Because, like, he was probably lingering around the house and, like, almost, like, paying, like
homage? I don't know.
Yeah, he's, like, tributing them in a way, and it's very weird.
At this point, police do believe he is on the run. Duh. Mm-hmm. He's a fugitive, but like we said, he's not exactly hiding either. He's taking out money from his credit card. They have the TV footage or the ATM footage to prove it too. Mm-hmm. And he's just like chilling.
Yeah, he's like eating out at restaurants.
And so my thought, I'm like, was this whole thing strategic? Did he really think he was not going to get caught? Did he leave the note on the door because like, oh, eventually they'll come and like, I'll need to face the music or whatever? Because with most family annihilators, whoever commits it, which is usually the father or the male patriarch, they commit suicide right after.
Right.
So they're like, is he biding his time? What is he doing?
Well, he's very much like John List. Like, he's like, oh, like, I just wiped the slate clean.
And they're like...
But it's like, maybe he's having this, like, internal dilemma where he's like, did I wipe the slate clean? Do I deserve punishment?
And...
Again, no compassion. Just trying to understand.
No, of course. And that's what the police think, too. And they find further confirmation of that he's, like, saying goodbye because they find out he's revisiting places from his childhood. Like, places that brought him joy and all this. And adolescence that gave him
Xavier.
fun. Yeah.
Grow up. I'm sorry, but grow up.
The most dramatic.
He's like hanging out in Disneyland, like, oh, I miss being 9 years old.
I love the teacups. Like,
I'm like
calm
so
down.
over Xavier.
Some of these places include where he met Agnes for the first time and where they spent the first year of their marriage, and that's like the same place his kids were born. The last known sighting of Xavier is in that same place where he spent a night at the hotel where his car was found. Police recover CCTV images and find a picture of Xavier crossing the hotel parking lot. He's carrying a bag they assume is filled with clothes, and I believe they can see some poking out. And at the bottom, they can make out the shape of a long object. Which
is it the gun?
Yeah, the gun. He looks to the camera and waves.
No, he didn't.
He does.
I am so done with Xavier. Ew.
In the area where he walks off to, there are cliffs and mountains and a huge body of water, just a couple of, well, to be exact, 30 kilometers away.
He doesn't get to walk off into the sunset now.
Well,
I hate that he has this beautiful landscape. I don't know why I hate that. I'm gonna come.
No, but you'd want to see him walk into the pits of literal hell.
Yeah,
not into like this fairy tale thing.
Dive into a dumpster and close it and just
throw away the key.
I don't know where I'm going with
Throw away
this.
the key. That's your thing.
I'm done with Xavier. Throw away the key.
They start their search of this area because, like I said, it's all wood. So they're like, okay, is he hiding? Did he go there to kill himself? Mm-hmm. They bring out canines, helicopters, and search for months, literally combing through the entire area. But no body, no, like, physical body was ever found. And everyone's thinking, how could this be if he went there to kill himself? Did he fool everyone? Like, because there were so many places he could have left from there. One possibility that was brought up was that he could have taken the mountains and found a path to Italy because it was right there. He could have got a train that was a couple of miles away and went to Croatia, or he could have gotten on a cargo ship.
Okay, he is so John List to me. I know I've said that a million times already, but literally, we're going to find him in 18 years. And he's going to be just an accountant somewhere else, and he's going to be living a life that no one suspected. This man did not take his life. This man took a new life. And he said, goodbye, family, and he moved on. And we got to find him.
And with these SOBs, the hard thing is they're all average looking.
Yeah, literally. Like, you don't know how to look for John List. It's a man who's white with glasses. Like, same
thing here. A man who's white, I think, glasses and, like, dark hair.
Xavier sucks. I'm, like, literally... Oh, I'm so angry.
Still to this day, nobody knows what happens to him. There have been a few, like, sightings, and at one point they even think they found his bones, like, near a campsite in the same area that he disappeared, but it didn't turn out to be him.
Man. Sorry for the person whose bones it was.
Right. And in the media, they dub it House of Terror, and that's really how people just view all of this.
It's very eerie. I mean, the last thing that we see of him is him waving, like...
And walking away to the woods where literally...
So, okay, here's my thing, though.
Yeah.
Him waving at the camera shows me that he knows people are going to be onto his tracks by this point. Maybe he's been following the police coverage or whatever, and he knows that he's, like, being suspected. And I think that he tried to lead them there with the letter on the door because he knew he wasn't going to stick around for long enough to actually reap the consequences. I think that this man did not go out into the hillside to take his life. I think that he is so proud and so up in his own world that he literally just wanted to start a new life. That's why we can't find his body. He wanted to end that chapter by being like, yes, that was me, Count Xavier, and now he's a new man.
I could not agree more. And
he's out there.
He is, because from where he disappeared, there's so many different avenues that he could have taken to disappear to another place, to make a new name, to change his appearance. It's
Man.
Crazy. To this day, when people walk by the house, they stop a little bit. They, like, take a pause because it is such a heavy thing in Nantes. Like, I think one of the worst things to come out of there from the way everyone has described it. I mean, it's truly horrific.
I'm sure.
We do hear an opinion from Xavier's family attorney. And not that it matters
Not really
at
interested
all.
in that, but
no, but
let's hear it.
he says it's not possible for Xavier to do this because...
Why is he standing by this man still? Is Xavier, like, paying him still?
I think it's something... I can imagine that Xavier did have relatives if they're still having a family attorney be active in all this. And I think maybe it's a way to save face because he says the location of where the bodies were found were so low and Xavier always complained of having back pain.
I wear tight pants to work.
Right.
And it hurts my tummy when I'm sitting down and my pants buckle is inside my belly. But guess what?
My sternum.
I still do it. Are people like, no, my family attorney is going to say, oh, she doesn't show up to work because her pants are too tight.
Well, it's because we're not.
That is a silly reason. And he knows it. It's almost like he wants to be like, I'm standing up for him fully. But if there's anybody who is looking for anything to shred doubt on it, here it is. He may have had a little bit of pain in his back.
And I'm like, come on.
That is the silliest shit I've ever heard.
And it really is. I mean, I know we touched on it earlier, but it's just crazy to think that he did all this, was so methodical about it, not giving him any sort of credit. But I mean, just, it's unexplainable. I don't want to try to explain it. I just think it's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like that's literally, like, where it ends. I don't know what else to think except for I think one day he just snapped and he's a monster and he's still out there. Thanks for listening. You can catch us on Instagram at The Chalkline Pod,
Twitter at The Chalkline Pod,
and follow along with our YouTube channel. The link is in our Instagram bio.
Tune in next Thursday for another story.